In this video, I'm going to talk about Divi's latest feature called the Global Defaults Editor. This allows you to manage the design of your entire website all in the builder. This feature will shock you. So without wasting a lot of time, let me show you how this feature works. Now, before I begin, if you buy Divi using my affiliate link, I will give you access to the Divi Blueprint course, a course which teaches you how to build awesome looking websites using Divi. The link to that is in the description below. All right, let's get started. So let's start by creating a brand new page. So I'm going to come over here to pages, click on add new. I'm going to give this page a name, and it doesn't matter what name you give it. So in my case, I'm just going to call this Mac Test 2. Use the Divi builder, and then we're going to go straight and build this from scratch. Right, so let's start adding all our elements. So the first thing I'm going to do here is to add 2 columns. And in each column, I'm going to add a text module. So over here, I'm going to add my text module, and that's what it looks like. I'm going to save that. And then I'm also going to add another one. And this time, this one here is going to have a title. So let's set this to heading 1. So I'm going to delete all this text, or as much as I can. I'm going to highlight it and set this to heading 1. So you can see that's my heading 1 there, and then save. And what I can also do here is I'm going to duplicate this, add it over here on its own. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to make some global changes to this and watch how this is applied to the whole website. Now, this is the power of this feature, because not only does the changes apply on this page, but it applies on the entire website. And I'll show you how that works as well. So let's start with the body text here. So I'm going to click on this gear icon. Now, what you'll notice after this update is there's this global icon. So when you click on this global icon, you get a slightly different interface. It pretty much looks the same as the other one. But if you click here on design and then you go into text, this is where you can customize your text. So I'm going to click here on Monsterrat because that's what I have by default. So let's choose a different font. So I'm going to go for a gilded display. So now you can see my font has changed. Next, I'm going to play around with the colors as well. So I'm going to go with a slightly darker color here. And I may want to try and make this bold as well. Let's see what that looks like. Yeah, let's go with bold. Okay, so I'm pretty much happy with that. So that's going to be my default text. But notice that as I'm changing the instance here, over here, things were changing as well. So that's quite interesting. So let me save this now. And then now I have this notice saying, are you sure you've made changes to the text module default settings? This will affect all the text modules across your entire site. Do you wish to proceed? And of course we want to proceed, so I'm going to say yes. And then I'm going to save this one more time. Now, every time I add body text onto my website, this text is what's going to be applied by default. And this has saved us so much time. So let me show you. I'm going to add a brand new page and add some body text and then see what happens. So I'm just going to come over here. In fact, let me open a new tab. So I'm just going to call this page. Okay, let's call this new page. I'm all creative with the pages now. Right, so I'm going to click new Divi builder. And then I'm also going to build this from scratch. All right, so what I'm going to do now is to add a brand new text module. So I'm going to click on single column text. I'm going to select that. Notice that this is now been applied. So I'm going to save this and save and exit. So now let's say down the line, you decide you want to change the text, or maybe you're designing this website for a client and they say, you know what, that font, we've changed our branding. I don't want that font anymore. How do you change this? Well, let me show you how quickly you can do that. So next, what you can do here is you can go into this module like that, click on this gear icon, design, text. Now let's go ahead and change this font one more time. So we're going to go back to Monsterrat. So that's what it looks like, but we don't want it bold. So I'm going to come over here and just choose regular. And again, the line height is a bit off. So I'm going to come over here and reduce the line height to about, let's say 1.4, and the text size to, let's say 14. In fact, let's increase this to 1.5. Okay. So this is how I want it now. I'm going to save this and then save one more time. Okay. Now, if we come back on our page here and refresh, you'll notice that this will automatically update. And this is the beauty of this latest feature. So let me go ahead and refresh this page. Boom, it has changed. So this global feature applies to pretty much every single module on your website, and it also works on sections and rows. Now let's go ahead and do a few more examples here. So I'm going to add a new section here, and let's add a text module. Okay, and we're also going to add a call to action. Right, so now that I've added this, notice what happens. We have the default text here, right? So I can actually go in and make my own customizations here. So I'm going to click here on text. Let's say I want to center this. So notice that as I'm working on this, it's not affecting anything here or anything on my page, and that's because I'm working here, but I'm not working in the global setting. Okay, so let's say I also want to adjust my sizing here, reduce my width. I'm going to center it. I'm going to save that. Now, if I right click, notice that we also have this option which says make styles default. So if I click on this, everything is going to change to pretty much centered, and it will take these settings. But of course, we don't want to do that right now. So let's continue. I'm going to add a button here. I'm going to center the button like that. Save. Now, just to make this look much better, let's add a background image here. So I'm going to click on settings, click on background, and then I'm going to add an image. So the image I'm going to add here is, let's see what we're going to add. Okay, let's go with this one here. Upload an image. And then I'm going to come over here to design, sizing. I'm going to make a specific line height here. So let's go with maybe 684 for my height. Okay, so I'm going to drag this to the top. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to make a few changes to our button and our text here, and then watch what happens as we design this. So I'm going to go into my module settings here. Okay, so this time, notice I haven't used this global icon. I haven't used that. I just went to my button settings, and then I am going to make changes to my button now. So here on my button text size, I'm going to reduce it to about 15 or maybe even 16. And then over here for my color, I'm going to change the button color. And I'm also going to make some changes to spacing. So I'm going to reduce the height to about maybe 10. And this to about, I'll say 38. Okay, so what I'm going to do next is I want to make this button look like a pill. So what I could also do is I could come over here to button, and then for my border radius, I'm going to increase this until that looks like a pill, and that's looking great. And also one more thing I could do is my text is not easy to read here on this light background, so I'm going to change my button text color. Okay, so now that's my button text color, and that's what my button looks like. So if I save this now, okay, I haven't done it globally, but the advantage of this new feature is I can literally just right click over here and make styles default. So that's just in case maybe I forgot to hit the global icon and I've gone ahead and spent so much time designing the button, and I've forgotten that it was meant to be a global item. So all you do is to come to that particular item, you right click over here, and then you make styles default. And then it asks you, are you sure? And I can just say yes. And then, you know what, let's further work on our design here. Drag this to the bottom here just to make it look better. Now I'm going to go into my module settings here and change my color and my text. So let's say, come over here to design, text, change the color, make it light, increase the size. Okay, I'm pretty much happy with that. Now, finally, I'm going to come over here to my image and just give it a darker color, or just dim it a little bit. So let's use this color here. We're going to change our blend mode to multiply. So now pretty much that looks much better. Okay, so I'm going to save this. Now, notice what happens when I create a brand new button. So I'm going to come over here, click this plus button. When I add a new button, it now takes my styles, which are created over here, which is fantastic. Now, again, this does not only apply on this page, it also applies on any page that I go to. So let's say I'm back over here and I need to add a new button. So I'm going to click Enable Visual Builder. So this is a brand new page. I mean, this is a new page on the site. I'm going to click on this plus button. and add my button. And again, you see it goes in with all my settings. So I'm going to save this one more time, exit the Visual Builder. Okay, now I'm going to make one more tweak so you can see that this is actually working. So I'm going to go back into this button here. And this time I'm going to play around with the colors. So I'm going to click here on Design button. And I'm going to change this button here to, in fact, this background color. Let's see. Let's go with, okay, let's go with this color here. I think this color is better. And for my button text color, I'm going to change it to white. So there we go. I'm going to save this. Now notice I wasn't in the global settings. So again, I'm going to assume that I forgot. I can always come over here, right click, make styles default, say yes. Now, when I save this page and refresh, notice that my button has changed. So that's pretty awesome. Now, let's make further customizations here. Let's say I want to work on, let's say, blurbs. So I'm going to come over here, hit regular. Let's add 3 blurbs. Select that. Now here, what we're going to do is we're going to use icons. So I'm going to click use icon. I'm going to select my icon here. I'm going to go with this one. I'm going to save that. And then I'm just going to duplicate this a few times, twice actually. Okay, so now I have my 3 blurbs. The next thing I'm going to do now is to go into one of these and make my global settings. So I'm going to click here on this gear icon. And then I'm going to click on this button right here. So that's going to take me to my global defaults. Click on design, and now I'm going to start designing. So the first thing I'm going to do is to start with the icon. So let's give this an icon color. So I'm going to start with, let's start with this color here. Okay, I'm going to go with that. And notice as I'm making my default changes here, it's applying to everything else that's on my page in real time because this is a blurb. Okay, so next I'm going to come over here and let's say I want to add a circle color. We could actually go with the circle color here. So I'm going to activate it. So now we have our circle and we have our color right there. So that's looking good. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I want to make this slightly different because I don't want to use the style that most people use when they create the blurbs. So what I'm going to also do is, in fact, let me first adjust my size, my icon size. So I'm going to come over here, activate, use icon font size, and then reduce the size a little bit because it's slightly too big. So I'm going to go with 22, maybe even 20, maybe let's try 26. Okay, so that's looking great. So I'm going to come back over here to my content, click on background. I'm also going to give this a background color. So I'm going to go with this color right here. And now I'm going to further customize my blurb by coming over here to design. This time I'm going to go with my text and make sure everything is aligned center. And then I'm going to start with my title text. So let's give this text Monster Ads. That's my title there. I'm going to make it all caps and I'm going to make it semi-bold. Great. Next, I'm going to come to my body text. And for my body text here, I'm also going to change this to Monster Ad. My line height is a bit too much. I'm going to reduce that to about 1.5. And then my body text size, I think it's fine at 14. So as you can see, my design is way too close to the edge here. So I'm going to go in and make some customizations to just give this a bit of breathing space. So I'm going to click here and no, in fact, I need to go to spacing. And then I'm going to activate these chains so that I can adjust my top and bottom at the same time. So I think 30 is fine. And then left and right, I'm going to go with, let's try 24. Okay, so as you can see, as I'm designing one item, these two were being updated. So how this saves you a lot of time is back before this update, what you would have to do is to make these changes on each individual item as you're designing it. But you can just design it once and it's applied throughout your whole website. So let's see how this is working now. So I'm going to save this and say yes. Okay. And then save this one more time. So this is our design. Now let's say I'm going to add another one here. So I'm going to click on this plus button here and let's add our blurb. So I'm going to click here, search for a blurb. And when I select it, notice that it comes in with basically all the settings that I need. All I have to do here is to change my image and icon. So I'm going to come over here, click on use icon. And then I'm going to choose the icon that I need to use. So let me just go with this lock here. Okay. Right. So pretty much I'm really happy with that. It's all done. Now we've done with the modules. Now let me show you what you can also do on your sections. So over here, let's give this a color so we can distinguish them. So I'm going to come over here and click on background, and we're going to give this a slightly light color here. Okay, so let's go with that. Great. So now we can distinguish all our sections. So sometimes, or what I notice when I design, I like adding, pretty much some space here on the top to give my sections a bit of breathing space. So what I found myself doing is I would do that over and over again on each and every section. Now, we don't have to do this anymore because we can actually make it a global setting. So I'm going to click here on section settings, click on this global icon like that. So the only thing I'm going to change here is going to be the padding, both the top and the bottom. So I'm going to come over here to spacing and then margin top, in padding top. So let's set this to 120. So you can see here, I've added 120 to the top, and to the bottom, I'm going to add, let's say 80. Okay. Now, if I save this and say yes, all my sections on my website are going to have this setting. And I'll prove this by just mousing over here. So you can see here, there's 120. If I come on the bottom here, it's 120. Now let's come over here on this new page and refresh it. And again, if I enable the visual builder, you can see it has 120. So that amount, it has been applied pretty much throughout your whole sections on your entire website, which I think is really cool. Now let's go to the rows and do a similar thing. So let's say my rows here, I'd like to have them at 80% width. So I can click here on my row settings, design, and in fact, I'm going to click on this icon here, click on design, sizing. So over here on max width, I'm going to set this to 80%. And as you can see, these are the role defaults. I'm going to save this and say yes to that. Now you notice that these are now 80%. And if I come on the top here, that's the same thing. All of them now are 80%. So this is the advantages of using this. Now you may ask, what about things like animations and all the other features that we can add on our images? Similarly, we can do the same thing. Let's add one image here, add a style to it, and I'll show you how this works too. So what I want to do, let's say I want to have a specific style to all my images. I'm going to click this plus button here, search for my image module. Okay, I'm going to choose my image. So let's say I go with, this one right here. I'm going to click upload an image. Okay, so this is my image. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to make some customizations to this. So again, I haven't clicked on this global icon. So I'm just going to go straight ahead and go to filters. So I can play around with my filters here, and I can add a sepia tone to this. So I'm going to set this to about 52, a bit of contrast. Okay, let's add a bit of brightness, just a little bit. Saturation, I'm going to reduce it slightly. So pretty much I'm happy with that. I am going to save this. Now I'm going to add some images here. So I'm going to click on this plus button. I'm going to add 3 images. So I'm going to add my image module. So let's add more images here. So my first one is going to be this one here, upload an image. And then I'm just going to add my images over here, just like that. Okay, so now that I've added my images, I'm going to come back over here now because I want to apply this style to all my images on my website. So all I have to do is to right click, and then I'm going to say make styles default. I'm going to proceed, and notice what happens here. This one now has been applied, and notice what happens here. My images now have the sepia tone applied. Now let's go on a brand new page and add a brand new image on that, and then you can also see the sepia tone being applied. So I'm going to come over here, and let's say I'm going to add an image above here. I'm going to click this plus button, search for my image module, and then I'm going to choose an image to add here. So let's go with this one here. Upload an image. And now if I save, the sepia tone has been added, but of course you need it before and after in order for you to see that. But definitely the sepia tone has been added to this image. Now let's do one more example, and this is going to involve some animation. So I'm going to add, let's say, animation to all our text modules. So I'm going to click over here, and then I'm going to click on design, animation. So let's add bounce to this. Okay. So if I save this and then I come over here, right click, make default styles, and say yes. Now every instance which has my text settings here is going to have that bounce effect. So let's see if it happens here. So I'm going to save the page and exit the Visual Builder, and this top bit here should bounce. There we go. So all these settings that we have in the Divi Builder all actually work in global settings. So you can add different styles to your images, you can add animations, transformations, you can pretty much even add section settings and also background colors. So this is really, really powerful, and I highly recommend that you go back, start working on your website and just make it look consistent throughout. So that's all I have for you in today's video. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.